You know that scene in The Wolf of Wall Street where Jonah Hill's character is offered a non-alcoholic beer and all he replies with is, "What's the point?" Well, the Polestar 2 front-wheel drive is the EV equivalent of a non-alcoholic beer. It has all the ingredients that makes the regular Polestar 2 all-wheel drive so good, except it's missing that one thing everyone liked, and well, that one thing is a rear electric motor. In today's video, we'll explore the Polestar 2 front-wheel drive and help you determine if it's a worthwhile option on the used market. Before we start today's video, my name is Andrew Lambrecht. I'm a project engineer here at Ever, and I'm also a contributor at Inside EVs and Business Insider covering electric cars. Before we kick off this review, I want to be clear that we already did a lot of content with the Polestar 2. We compared the two generations. We also did a full review of the Polestar 2 and a comparison with the Tesla Model 3. So we're not going to go very in-depth on the overview of this car. So if you want to see more information about the interior quality and stuff like that, you can check out our other videos. But let's get into the Polestar 2 front-wheel drive. Starting off, how do we know if what we're looking at is a front or all-wheel drive Polestar 2? Well, on the exterior, there's no all-wheel drive badge or anything like that to discern them, but there is one small little sticker on the side of the car that helps you figure this out. This particular one says 170 kilowatts, and 170 kilowatts translates to 231 horsepower. That's the amount of power on the front axle of this particular car. If you have an all-wheel drive, it makes around 408 or 421 horsepower, so we will see the kilowatt equivalent of that unit on that sticker. And that's the best way to figure out on the outside of a car if a Polestar 2 is front or all-wheel drive. As for model years and pricing, well, Polestar only made the Polestar 2 front-wheel drive for the 2022 and 2023 model year. For the 2024 model year, Polestar switched to a rear-wheel drive setup because a lot of people preferred having the sportier dynamics of a rear-wheel drive car as opposed to a front-wheel drive car. And the 2024 rear-wheel drive gets 299 horsepower as opposed to 231. All right, slight filming location change. Apparently you need a license plate to film in public. Not cool. What is cool, however, is the powertrain. This Polestar 2 uses a 78 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack, of which about 75 of those kilowatt hours are usable, and that's good for an EPA range of 270 miles. The all-wheel drive, by contrast, has an EPA rated range of 249 miles. However, in real-world driving, the delta between the all-wheel drive and the front-wheel drive is not that significant. For instance, Edmunds did a mix of city and highway driving with both Polestar 2s at the same time, an all-wheel drive and a front-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive got 288 miles and the front-wheel drive got 289 miles. So that was a 1 mile range difference when the EPA says that can be up to 21 miles. In other words, both of these cars have really solid real-world range, but the difference may not be that large in normal driving. As for other considerations, the front and all-wheel drive Polestar 2 between the 2021 and 2023 model year can go from 10 to 80% in a little over 30 minutes. So in terms of charging, there's no differences between these two cars. But now we gotta talk about pricing, and this is the really interesting thing. This particular Polestar 2 I'm in is pretty well equipped. We have the Napa leather seats, the Plus package, the Pilot package. We'll get into those in a second. And this also has the 20-inch alloy wheels. This car, when it was brand new, cost $59,600 with destination fees. This was really expensive. But today, this car is $26,300 with just 12,000 miles on the odometer. So that is 55.8% depreciation in just 3 years. But the Polestar 2 front-wheel drive isn't the only Polestar that has been seeing these significant depreciation numbers. In fact, the all-wheel drive Polestar 2 is depreciating very similarly. And in fact, Ever has another Polestar 2 in inventory, exact same trim level and spec as this Polestar, yet it has the all-wheel drive powertrain, and it's around $1,500 more with a few thousand more miles on the odometer. So the price parity really isn't a huge deal. Now, it is $1,500. If someone wants to keep their monthly payment under a certain budget, that could be the deciding factor, but for the most part, the price difference really isn't that significant. It's not like the front-wheel drives are really cheap and the all-wheel drives are really expensive. These cars are in a relatively similar price range. Occasionally, you can find some really low trim level Polestar 2 front wheel drives, particularly ones that were in Hertz's electric fleet. And these ones you can find in some cases for under $20,000. Now, a lot of these have higher miles and they may not be in the best of shape, but it is very possible to find Polestar 2s for under $20,000, though they will be higher mileage and very low trim level. And on the topic of trims, here's what to look for if you want to find a used Polestar 2. As for the interior and just overall amenities, there's a few packages to look for. First, there is the Pilot package. This was $4,000 when the car was new, and Pilot package adds on adaptive cruise control, lane centering, blind spot monitor, and a 360 camera. There's also the Plus package, which adds on a 13-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, power passenger seat, a glass roof, an air ionizer, and a bunch of additional amenities. This really makes the Polestar 2 feel a lot more premium. This package was $4,000 when the car was new. And then finally, there is the Napa leather package that this particular one has, and the Napa leather package cost around $3,200 at the time of purchase. The Napa leather package adds on, well, Napa leather seats and a ventilation function. So the only way to get ventilated seats in the Polestar 2 is through this package. The seats feel very premium and the ventilation function is nice to have. This specific Polestar 2 also comes with the 20-inch alloy wheels. As standard, you get 19s, but this one has the optional 20-inch wheels. This was a $1,200 option at the time of purchase. In total, this particular Polestar 2 has $12,400 worth of options on it, yet it's still priced around $26,000 used with pretty low miles. As we can see in the used market, these options don't necessarily translate to significantly higher car prices. But that's enough with the options. Let's get this thing out on the road and see how it drives. All right, we are now driving the Polestar 2 front wheel drive, or the technical term is the long range single motor. The United States never got the standard range single motor like Europe did. Anyways, so first, weight. The Polestar 2 weighs 4,396 pounds. Now, the all-wheel drive one weighs 294 more pounds than the front-wheel drive, which is a pretty big weight increase. I can kind of feel this when I drive on the roads. Obviously, I don't think you can tell 250 pounds that easily on such an already heavy car, but this does feel a little bit more spry, I'd say, than the all-wheel drive. In terms of the dynamics, it's very similar, if not a little bit better than the regular Polestar 2. So the steering feels good, the handling's good, it still feels a little heavy in corners, but this does feel pretty sporty. Even though this is the front-wheel drive Polestar 2 with significantly less power, it's still somewhat engaging to drive on some of these curvy roads. One-pedal driving, the regen liftoff feel and acceleration feel are all very well calibrated, though the accelerator pedal does feel a little bit mushier when you compare it to the all-wheel drive. So if you floor it, you don't get that immediate surge of torque you do in the all-wheel drive and the front-wheel drive, just because you're more limited for traction. Because if you got all that power instantly when you're accelerating, first off, whenever you accelerate, there's a load transfer towards the rear of the car. So there's already less grip for those front wheels, and you just can't get all that power instantly. So that is one reason why this does feel a little bit slower. And it's also a reason why the 2024 rear wheel drive is a lot more fun, because it's rear wheel drive, which is great because you can oversteer it a little bit. And also you just get more traction whenever you're accelerating. And now the power. So this car weighs 4,400 pounds and it only makes 231 horsepower. That's not a really great power to weight ratio. So let's give it a little bit of juice here. I'll just floor it. You do get some torque steer in here. You do not get that in the all-wheel drive to this extent. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's like in the mid 7-second range, 0 to 60. And it depends on what you're coming from. If you're coming from a Tesla Model 3, it doesn't even matter if it's a single or dual motor Model 3. If you're coming from a Model 3, you're gonna think this is kind of sluggish. But if you're coming from an older internal combustion engine car, or maybe even something like a regular gas-powered RAV4 or CRV, you're gonna think this is pretty good. So it's all about perspective. And that's the thing, this drives like a regular Polestar 2. The really only missing puzzle piece is the acceleration. We also get all the safety features because this one has the pilot pack. So right now I can take my hands off the wheel and this car can drive us on the road. And if you're gonna be cruising, that wasn't good. And if you're gonna be cruising on the highway for most of your time in the Polestar 2, then maybe the front wheel drive would be fine for you. If you really want that performance, if you wanna have a lot of fun with your car, then get the all-wheel drive. But for a lot of people, I still think the front wheel drive is a solid option. And that's the Polestar 2 front wheel drive. If a car enthusiast engineer signed off on the all-wheel drive Polestar 2, then it was likely the pragmatic accountant who signed off on the front wheel drive one. But if you don't really care about performance and you just want a good electric car that's slightly lower in price and also slightly lower on insurance rates, then the front wheel drive Polestar 2 will certainly suffice. At the end of the day, this is a sporty sedan with a $60,000 MSRP you can pick up used for around $26,000. And in that context, the front wheel drive Polestar 2 is a surefire win. If you enjoyed today's video, please tell your friends that Evercars Official is the arbiter of truth, or you can just hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.